2015, an elite DFS Army Commando unit formed to bring high-level DFS strategy to the masses. Today, hated by DFS sharks and lineup sellers alike, they continue their quest to turn Joe into DFS pros.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is your DFS Army Daily Dispatch brought to you by DFSArmy.com, and I am your host today, BoomersDaddy, and joining me is the one, the only, Mr. Bear here. How we doing today, Shy?
I'm doing well, Keith. How are you?
Look at my wounds a little bit from yesterday, but that's okay. It was more of a personal thing than anything else. Kevin Durant did exactly what we needed him not to do, and otherwise it would have been a monster night for me. And because he did what he did, it ended up being a negative night overall, but still happy with the process. I knew as soon as lock and I saw everything, I was going to be bit in the ass. So,
well, I just want everyone listening to listen to the thing that you just said. You lost, but I'm still happy with the process.
Yep.
And I think we're losing sight of the importance of that, because there are going to be nights. There have been plenty of nights where all of the chalk explodes, where that Washington-Houston game, literally all the starters put up at least 40. And James Harden puts up 80-something, and Kevin Durant puts up 77, and you wanted to go balanced, and you didn't play some of those guys, and you didn't hit the money. But guess what? Most of the time throughout the course of a season, it's not going to happen that way. And we're going to be here to collect and to win and to profit and to maximize the times where it doesn't happen. So for those of you that are out there struggling, for those of you that said, I hit 326 and barely hit any money, you know what? 326 hit all the double ups, hit all the 50-50s, probably crushed the head-to-heads. So I would like for everybody to listen when I'm telling you in our chat forums and online and wherever else. If you're only playing tournaments and nothing else, your likelihood of hitting big money on those are lower than they are playing those cash games.
Yeah. My head-to-heads yesterday, I think I was 328, and I hit on half of them. And a lot of it had to do, in going into the final game of the night, I was absolutely crushing. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that I, didn't have Kevin Durant. So that's what it was, is on a lot of my guys, now granted, I played half of my head-to-heads against one guy, so that had a lot to do with it, and you know the backstory there. But there were other head-to-heads and three-mans and stuff that I lost because I didn't have Kevin Durant, and you know what? I'm okay with that. It's not something that I'm really that I don't regret it. The process, the lineup, or anything, because as soon as the Larry Nance news hit, I went and had to adjust, and it allowed me to get James Harden in my lineup along with Larry Nance, and I had Clint Capella, and I had Eric Gordon. I mean, when you sit there and you look at it, let me pull up my lineup here real quick. Well, we've got 5 games today, so we don't have a lot to get to. So we're going to kind of touch on this a little bit. When you sit there and you look at, my process of my lineup, I loved everything about it. Every single one of them was on my list. It put up a 328. The only one that I wish that I would have kind of got around was the Terry Rozier, but 3,800, he wasn't even my drop score. Thanks, Rudy Gay. It's not that bad. LMA went off. We talked about him on the pod. We talked about if Larry Nance was going to get the start, how we needed to have him on the pod. Loved him. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist was somebody that we didn't talk about yesterday on the pod as far as a play, but I expected him to kind of be that drop score candidate. Playing a lot of defense against Giannis, I didn't expect him to do a lot, and he went off in the first half, and 21 points at halftime, and then got 3 in the second half. So, but my most of my head-to-heads was a combination of 3v3. Everybody else was pretty much it was right on. The guy that I ended up playing most of my head-to-heads against was a 4v4. We both had Rozier, we both had Eric Gordon, we both had Rudy Gay, we both had Larry Nance and LaMarcus Aldridge. It was Clay Capella versus Tristan Thompson. I won that. Kevin Durant versus Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. Obviously, we know the difference there. Marcus Smart versus James Harden. And then Kyrie versus Jeff Teague. And he only beat me by 5. But, I mean, those 5 points, make the difference between a winning a monster night and a, not so good night. But when you sit there and you think about it, what could I have done different? And my answer is honestly nothing. I was extremely happy with everything that I did. Going into the final game, Kevin Durant needed to put up like a 72.6 or something like that in order to beat me. And in order for my night to turn from a net positive into a clunker, and I tipped my cap. He did it. So that's kind of the process and what I'm thinking about. So I had a nice comfortable lead, and 60-65, whatever, but dropping to 76, or 77.7, that kind of stung a little bit. So, but you look back, you analyze, you're honest with yourself. What could you have done differently? And my answer is nothing. So I chalk it up as a loss, and I move on to the next day.
Yeah.
So that's about the only thing you can do.
In my in my chat channel, we have 3 letters that gets put up there every single day, and that is TTP. We trust our process.
Yep.
And that's what we stick to. And frankly, most of my followers, members have been happy because we stick to the process. We stick to our ladders. We stick to our head-to-heads. We stick to our cash games. And guess what? Every so often, you win a boatload of money playing GPP.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, let's dive into the slate, shall we?
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's start with the point guard here. 5 games on the schedule, kind of spread out throughout the night, which is nice, which is really nice. Got one total, well, I guess 2. We got one total at 220, 2 totals over 220, and then one under 210, and the rest are, right there in the middle. So, not too bad. Let's start with point guards here. This is going to be a kind of a theme to the day, and I'm interested to see what your take is because of the way they've been performing. Mm-hmm. But Mike Conley versus the Memphis Grizzlies. It's
versus the Raptors.
For the Memphis Grizzlies versus the Raptors. I'm not too sure I want to pay $8,800 to go up against these guys today.
It's tough, man. It's a tough sell. I mean, if you give me a few minutes to try to sell you on it, I probably could, but I'm not convinced myself. I mean, look, he's been on a tear. Him and Gasol, who I will be all over here when we get to the centers, but he and Gasol have really been consistently balling out, man. They're like at the top of the standings a month into the season. Who would have ever thought that, right? And that's because these two are their core guys, and they've been putting up and producing. One thing that we've been able to see a lot of this year, no matter how good and hot teams are and how much a team is rolling, when they go up against Toronto, they get silenced pretty quick. Now, I don't think that we need to run away from the game as a whole. And I say that because, well, for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's only a 5-point spread. All the games are pretty much close, but it's a 5-point spread. And the issue that you and I both have is it's the lowest total on the board. But the lowest total on the board, as I've been saying since 2 years ago when I started doing these podcasts, will benefit the bigs the most. And so, at least the traditional bigs.
Yeah.
Not the stretch bigs. Which is why I'm just going to say Gasol's name probably 25 times today, because I just love the play. But, yeah, I mean, so I'm not going to pay for Conley. And frankly, in that same game, I don't know that I want to pay for Lowry either. Just because of the pace and because Conley is no slouch on his own defensively. So, and his backcourt mate is also no slouch on defense. And so, this is not a game that I want guards, considering we have so many of these other higher tempo, higher paced games that I want to go for the guards. This is a game that I'm more looking to target some of the bigs.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you there. It's for me, it intrigues me more from a pure basketball standpoint. I think this is one of Memphis's tougher tests of the season.
Yes.
I want to see how they act, especially, with it being at home. And I want to see how Toronto acts going into the grindhouse. They're back to, doing what they do. And we'll talk more about Gasol later, because I think we're along the same lines. But it's just absolutely imperative that we kind of mention that this is not a game where Mike Conley has the ability to, most of the time, pay off his salary.
I caught that, by the way.
Yeah.
I agree. And the fun, and just I just want to clarify something. He still can, right? It's the NBA. These are elite athletes, some of the top in the world. The possibility certainly exists, but we go based on stats. We go based on probabilities. We go based on trends and matchups and all that stuff. So that's where we kind of say we don't think so.
Yeah, and I don't want to sell Mike Conley short, because if you were to ask me right now, is he a point guard for the West or for the Western Conference All-Star team? I'd have to say yes.
I would definitely say yes.
I think him and Dame are, playing outstanding this year so far. You kind of look at the point guards throughout the West, and Steph's
and their teams are winning.
Yeah,
too. That's the key.
And
right?
that's the big key. You look at the point guards throughout the West. Steph is obviously injured. Russ has been in and out of the lineup. Those are elite guards when you talk about when they're on the court, but a month into the season, they haven't been on the court for every game. Conley and Damian Lillard both have, so
right.
He's a great play. I guess if you're throwing 150 in, or you're throwing 50 in, or whatever, you can throw a couple in. I don't mind that. Obviously, with it being a shorter 5-game slate, he's definitely not going to be highly owned. But as far as a 3 max or 5 max or even 10, I probably would shy away from the guards in this game. So, touched a little bit about Kyle Lowry. I think it's kind of kind of overshadowed too, going back to Conley, how good he has been on defense as well, playing within the system. So that's going to hurt Kyle Lowry a little bit. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but if by some miracle Kawhi Leonard would be ruled out, I just want to touch on this because I know we're going to get the questions today, because it is Kawhi and it is the Raptors and they're on the slate. Would you then have interest in Kyle Lowry?
Different ballgame.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that we touched on that real quick. Let's talk about Jamal Murray, because there's two guys in this $7,000 range.
Yeah, there are.
That I have interest in, but they're both very, very, very streaky. And we're talking about Jamal Murray and Trae Young.
They're so GPP only, it's nuts.
It is unbelievable. Like, when they get hot, I mean,
you can't win without them when they get hot.
I mean, they could drop buckets from 30 feet.
Yeah.
And they're doing it with ease.
Yeah.
Now Trae Young's been doing it since high school, but Jamal Murray, like, that little benching for violating team rules has kind of picked him up a little bit.
Oh yeah, it has. It's certainly woken him up. There's no question.
Yeah, I think they're both along the same lines. I like Trae a little bit more, I think, going against Miami. I don't think that there's anybody there that's going to be able to really kind of guard him in the sense of being able to see and control the offense. The problem is that they've shown that they're not going to let him be out there for 30 plus minutes, 35 minutes, and make a ton of mistakes. If Jeremy Lin comes in and he starts balling, all of a sudden we see those 29 to 32 minutes start to creep down to the 24 range.
Yep. And we've seen it happen a lot. And the reality is, when you've got a rookie, especially a raw rookie like him, it's number one, it's the right decision. Number two, it's bound to happen. I mean, it's not, any good coach would do the same. Now, when they're later on in the season and they really have no shot at, anything, not that they have a shot at the playoffs anyways, but for their fans, you can't, I mean, they're 4-16, right? So at some point, you also have to look at the coach wanting to save his job. And so he's got to win some games.
Well, with him being the first-year coach, I don't think that he's going anywhere this year. I think they've pretty much kind of succumbed to the ability of, okay, your job is to develop these guys. So they want to see progress with Trae Young. They want to see progress with Taurean Prince. In my opinion, Kent Bazemore defensively has taken a step back, which we'll talk about here in just a second as well. But,
and they want to see development with John Collins as well.
John Collins. And, some of these guys have to, Jeremy Lin is not, let's make it real clear. Jeremy Lin is there to help Trae Young. He is not there to, be a cornerstone franchise player for the next 5 to 7 years.
For sure.
He's on a 1-year deal, 2-year deal?
I think it's a 1-year deal.
Okay.
Wait, no. He was traded from Brooklyn, correct? After his injury.
Yeah. So he's got 2 years left on his 3-year deal that he signed.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, but he's not a long-term answer. Trae Young is a top 10. He's a lottery pick. He's the cornerstone of this franchise. He's the guy that they want to build around, along with John Collins. And you could make your case about Taurean Prince and Kent Bazemore and Dwayne Dedmon and all the rest of the yahoos there too. So that's the only thing that scares me with Trae Young. I think in like a tournament build, what you do is you can do like a 2v2 or 3v2 swap because of the price difference between Lin and Trae Young. That if you have some Lin or some Trae Young, you make sure that you have a very similar lineup with some Trae Young or Jeremy Lin. I don't like hedging a lot, but one of these 2 point guards is going to have a very good game.
So he's unrestricted next season.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was just about to look it up, but I was finishing my thought. So thank you.
I got you.
So after next season or going into or next summer?
2019.
Okay. So yeah, obviously he's there to help Trae Young as much as possible.
Yeah. And provide some reasonable backup minutes, which he's been doing more than that. Excuse me. So yeah, I mean, that's what he's there to do. I agree. Now, just back to my point about him though is there's when a guy is as raw as Trae is, because there's some rookies that are going to make rookie mistakes, but they're not as raw yet, right? But a guy like Trae, what you don't want to have happen is have him out there, have him struggle, have him make mistakes, have him, get lit up on defense, whatever the case might be, and keep him out there and get down on himself. They pull him, they bring in Lynn, they bring Trae back in. And I've been seeing it happen all year. Now, will that change? Of course it will, right? As the season progresses, at some point they're going to be like, look, we want Trae to go out there and get his experience. We need him. Next 2 seasons, we need him to be a polished player. So you're going to see a lot of that. But at this stage of the season, if he's way off, if he can't get anything going, you're going to see you're going to see Lynn take those minutes. So the point of everything that Keith and I are saying here is he's very much a risky play, but when he gets hot, he is GPP winning tournament hot.
Yeah. I mean, you could go and look at his game logs. So it's just I love Trae Young. Like I honestly think that, I've watched a lot of basketball, probably more basketball than I'd probably care to admit, but it's one of those things like I remember Curry when he was a rookie. I remember him coming out of Davidson. And I would say that if Trae works, he is going to be compared. He's already being compared to him because of the way that he plays and the size and everything like that. But if he continues to work and doesn't get a big head like he's a privileged first-round pick like we've seen a lot of guys do, I would tend to think that he's going to be on along a similar kind of incline or increase of career path as Steph Curry. I'm not calling multiple MVPs and championships or anything like that, but I'm talking about being a cornerstone of a franchise.
Yeah, and listen, I got to be honest. At first, I didn't agree, but in fairness, I didn't really watch much of him in college, and I say that because I'm not much of a college basketball guy. I'm very much a pros only kind of guy for me, and most of that is time because like yourself, I have watched an insane amount of NBA games. And I can't even say that I'm doing it more since I started, coaching here at the Army. I was watching just as much before. I always have. It's just been what I love to do. And if I added college into that, I don't think I would stay married. But
you or me both.
But what I saw, I mean, you see highlights. Obviously, him going in to be a lottery pick. You see. And I'm like, okay, he'll be good. Let's see how he does in the league. And the first thing and the biggest thing that I judge players on coming in for right or for wrong is what they can do on the defensive side of the court. Because as great as he is or can be offensively, not just Trae, any player, you need to be able to defend in order to win. You can put up 50 points. If you're giving up 65 on the other end, it's not going to help you. You've got to be able to defend. Yeah. And he's really, 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 really lacking there. He has, over the course of the early season, I've been able to see him progressing a little. He's not good defensively, but he's progressing, which is what you want to see. You want to see that progress. No guy came into the league as a poor defender, and 15 games into the season all of a sudden became locked down. It doesn't work like that. A perfect example, De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox last year was atrocious on defense. He's not NBA All-First defensive team this year, but he's a good defender now. He's not a guy you could say, oh, Fox? Yeah, go light him up. Go pick, roster any guy that he's going to be guarding, like we do with Trae Young, right? Which, if Dragic was in this game, he would be a lock for me, right? But he's not. So, but he is showing the improvement. And so and that's where I think he will eventually get there. So between these two guys in this range, you mentioned Jamal Murray being the other one. He's got the safer minutes because we'll see what happens with Gary Harris. But if Gary Harris sits, even if he doesn't, frankly, Jamal Murray is going to get those minutes. Even those games where he was benched or coming off the bench, I should say, he still played a ton of minutes.
Yeah, he was still averaging 33 to 35 minutes. So
that's not going to change.
Yeah, for all the grief that we used to give Mike Malone about his rotations and stuff, they're pretty solid. He might throw a wrinkle in every once in a while. I think it's more matchup based now, or trying to teach somebody a lesson, or something like that. It's not as bad as it used to be. Okay, let's talk about the other end of that Lakers-Denver game. Lonzo Ball has been extremely underwhelming this season. We know why.
Well,
it's not any secret to why. He's not the primary ball handler. He's not the guy that's making the plays. And we knew that was what was going to happen coming in. He's just, I don't know. He's still getting his rebounds, which is fine, but the shooting percentages, we've talked about this before, have gone up, but the attempts are extremely down. And like I said, we know why. A lot of it has to do, and he's not racking up the assists like he normally is because he doesn't have the ball in his hand. I don't know if I can touch him at this price. I think that's, in a roundabout way, I think that was what I was getting at. I don't know if I can touch him on this slate at this price with the expected ownership I'm thinking that we might see.
Okay. So I've got a lot to say about this topic. First of all, I think that a big part of his early on inability to produce was based on he did not play any basketball the entire summer. He did not go through any of the training camp in terms of 5-on-5 drills. He's literally been in the weight room since the season ended last year. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, well, we're a handful of games in. Yes, but understand, well, and he also missed a few games, right? But understand, in the NBA, it's not like we're talking about going and playing in the rec league. You need to have your legs under you to be able to play a complete game in the NBA. Particularly, do not discount this, at the pace that this team plays in. It is ridiculous. They are top 3 in pace in the league, and all I hear about from Luke Walton, we're not playing fast enough. And they're already at the top of the league in terms of pace. Okay? Having said all those things, if you're going to play in that tempo, in that system, in that up-tempo system, and you haven't played basketball for X amount of months, it's going to take some time for it to get back. Now, what I've seen in the last 2 games, he's getting there, if not almost completely there. And this is why, and yes, a lot of that people are going to attribute it to Rondo not being there. Sure, it has an impact, but I think what's not being seen is what I just said, that his legs have not really been there until now. And so now I'm starting to see him be more aggressive. He's attacking the rim. He's never attacked the rim. Even at UCLA, he barely attacked the rim. He's attacking the rim. He's doing back cuts. He's working off LeBron James. And I think at this price, what you're probably going... So 2 more things I want to add. He's going against Jamal Murray. There's a lot of bad blood here, guys. A lot of you may not know this.
Oh, yeah.
But there's a lot... So there has been 2 games over the past season, not this season, but the last season. There were 2 games where the Nuggets, they were very, very close, tight games. The Nuggets won the game, and they were running out the clock. And Jamal Murray pulled some, let's just call it what it is, some bitch move stuff. This is what it is. Took a shot when they were already ahead by X amount of points. Dribbled around Lonzo when he wasn't even really in the game. You know how the last few seconds when the game is over and they're just dribbling out the clock. So he dribbled around Lonzo during that part. I mean, just bitch move stuff, and he's done that twice. So I fully expect Lonzo to continue being aggressive and go at Jamal Murray. And I'm even going to be having a few lineups where I'm going to ping pong these two.
Let's add something in there.
Okay.
Jamal Murray pretty much thinks he's privileged. And I think more so last year when, Daddy was sitting there yapping all the time. But, you can't discount the fact that there is bad blood here. There's a lot of bad blood here. We're going to have to pull up the highlights and kind of talk about that, later on in the day. If you do look at, thanks to Mikey in our chat, he just kind of posted this last season. Actually, you know what? Lonzo's low game against the Denver Nuggets is 30. He even put up a 43 against them this season in LA.
Trying to tell y'all. Trying to tell y'all.
All right, I kind of did my whoop, whoop, whoop. So I'm getting my fun coupons out for this one tonight, guys. So it is let's just have some fun with this one. Oh man, I'm gonna have to put this on record and come back and watch this game, because my wife leaves for Dallas tomorrow for a couple days, and I promised her that we'd have a nice dinner and spend some time together. So, this is going to be one I'm going to want to have to come back and watch. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Oh man! Not to mention, I'm going to have my my Colorado basketball guys just blowing my phone up. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about some of these lower guys. I'm getting a lot of, just in our initial builds and everything, I'm getting a lot of Corey Joseph and Darren Collison mix-ups. And I don't mean like mix-ups like as in they're being mixed up. Like they're getting paired a lot kind of together. They're getting paired.
Sure.
And let's preface this in saying this all depends on whether or not Victor Oladipo's out. Because last time I checked, he is questionable. But the biggest thing is like it's a great matchup. Like going against Phoenix is awesome. Darren Collison against Utah finally did what we wanted him to do. Corey Joseph didn't have that game. It's one of these two, or it's one or the other with these guys. It is never, ever, ever both.
Yeah, or at least it's rare, right? I mean, it's tough, but I will say this: if ever a matchup, if ever a matchup where they could both, but yeah, I mean, it's so I'm leaning a little more towards Collison. I mean, they're pretty much the same price, are they not? Let me see.
Yeah, they're $100 difference on Fanduel.
I mean, that's crazy to me. It really is.
Pulling up DK here. Not that DK is even better. One of my head-to-heads, by the way, just to throw this out here while I'm pulling it up, is against on DK today. Is against Jesus Christ Loves DFS.
I mean, if that's not a sign.
Oh, I know, right? Especially with me. Darren Collison is 44. Corey Joseph is 46. Going into Phoenix.
Yeah.
Guys, one of these two should be a staple in a lot of your cash games.
But that's where we need to identify what that means. right? One of these two. We need. For me, it's Collison. Because, well, let me give a little bit of kind of my thought process here before I just say who it is. More than likely, Collison will be on Devin Booker. Will be guarding Devin Booker. Now, with Tyreek at the shooting guard, he matches up perfectly with Bridges, right? And then you can go down the list and you know who's there. But what does that mean on the other side? It means that Booker's going to be guarding Collison. And without Oladipo, the ball is in Collison's hands a ton, even with Tyreek Evans, which is why Tyreek Evans is not putting up the numbers we hoped he would. The ball is still in Collison's hands. So his usage numbers aren't massive, but when we get a chance here, I want to look, and I'll do this here in a minute, I want to see what his usage numbers look like with Collison off the court.
I'm actually looking it up right now, so keep talking.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, and that's really what I wanted to see because, boom. Last night, he didn't even do it with points. Last night, he did it with assists.
Oh, I know. He ran the offense like he should have been. Instead of trying to take over the game with, instead of taking over the game like points wise, he ran the offense, which was great. Okay, so Derek Collison's usage rate with the starters the last couple seasons or the last couple games. This is with Victor Oladipo out. And this is with the starting lineup of Turner, Bogdanovich, Young, Evans, and Collison. He actually averages the second most fantasy points per minute at 1.11, but his usage rate is the lowest at 13.2. Okay, now you're talking about this isn't a true usage rate. This is a usage rate. Now usage rate basically gets calculated by you have the ball in your hands, but then you get more credit for more usage with when you end the play, the offensive play.
Yeah.
So, but Collison, and this is in 62 minutes. Collison doesn't take a lot of shots, guys.
No, he's not.
So he is a very offensive driven type of see the ball, move the ball, get the offense in the right spot type of kind of point guard. And that is one of the biggest things that you have to realize. So that usage rate, when we talk about usage rates, it's a little deceiving sometimes because of that. But when you take Collison off the court, and they've been running on the court a lot together lately, but when you take Collison off the court, his usage rate the ball ends up in the hands of Bogdanovich and Turner a lot. I still like Collison because of the fact that he does not have to score in order to do a lot. But,
definitely.
It works.
Definitely.
All right. Real quick, any interest in Emmanuel Mudiay?
I mean, I do. It's so we're going to be asked here 55 times an hour. Mudiay or Burke? Mudiay or Burke? Mudiay or Burke? Right? The issue is you've got the both of them. So on the team, and whichever one gets hot is the one's going to play. It's just neither of them play defense, so it's not who defends better, right? It's who's scoring more or who's hot and who's making more plays. And there's really no way for anyone on this planet to be able to predict that. It's game specific. It's situational, right? And I don't mean situational in terms of lineups. I mean situational in terms of in-game action. So if you're going to play Mudiay, make sure you have another lineup with Burke because it's going to be really a coin flip.
Yeah, I'm just a firm Emmanuel Mudiay. Wrong answer. Yeah. Not at his price. Let's see here. Is he playable on DK? As we say everything. He's more playable on DK where he's $1,200 cheaper.
Yeah, it's doable.
But
4,500 is doable.
yeah, 5,700 on FanDuel, I can't do it.
It's tough.
Sorry, if Emmanuel Mudiay beats me tonight, then you know what? I'll chalk it up.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's. We could have done a whole pod on the freaking point guards, but there was a lot to uncover here. So let's go through the shooting guards real quick. Devin Booker, obviously. I like him more if Victor Oladipo is out.
A lot more.
Yeah. So it's he's still too cheap.
Yeah. For the upside, yeah.
Yeah, and it looks like I don't have an injury update on Victor Oladipo. Are we serious right now?
I don't think anyone knows right now.
But he's not pulling minutes. Oh, there it is. He's expected to return on Thursday, so it looks like he's going to be out tonight. So that means that Devin Booker will be a staple in my cash games. It's not hard to figure out. Then we have the combination of Rodney McGruder, Wayne Ellington, and Dwayne Wade. Now, and I did skip a guy for a reason, and we're going to go back to him in just a second, but I wanted to touch on this real quick. Okay. Dwayne Wade put up 50, had a flash from the past on Sunday. Obviously, with it being a Sunday, none of us knew about it. That's a joke. But played 34 minutes, 35 points, had a really, really good game. Vintage D Wade. You don't expect to see this again. If Dwayne Wade is going to be up there in ownership, then I'm probably going to pivot to Ellington and McGruder. Probably going to go with McGruder if he's my top out of these three, just because he's going to play more minutes. It's more of a, I don't know, it's more of a safety thing with me. I think he's got the higher consistent ceiling. But if you need to save a couple $100 and go down to Wayne Ellington on FanDuel, I think you can do that.
Yeah, I think you can too.
So, all right, let's talk about Tim Hardaway Jr. Detroit is not known for their defense on the backcourt, but the problem is that whether by hook or by crook, they've actually been doing pretty well. They're just a little bit below average at the point guard position, but at the shooting guard position, they're really, really good. Or they're a lot better than, and I think a lot of it has to do with the quality of shooting guards in the Eastern Conference. That goes into our ADVP adjustments, but $7,000, 36 minutes. We've talked about it. Tim Hardaway Jr. is the only guy that's really going to get the consistent minutes in this backcourt, unless he gets hurt or gets into foul trouble. And I think I'm just going to lock him and Devin Booker in on a lot of my lineups and kind of move on from there.
Yeah. I mean, that's where I started most of mine, so I agree with you there.
So, I mean, he's a guy that can put up a ton of points. He's going to shoot the ball a ton. Going against Reggie Bullock and Ish Smith and Reggie Jackson and, all these Stanley Johnson, all these different 1 through 3 guards or 1 through 3 guys for the Pistons. It's not great. Now, and that's not something that Dwayne Casey's teams have been known for, is defense. So I think you can kind of get away with ping-ponging him in like a Blake Griffin or even a DeAndre Drummond. So I think that's a pretty good shot.
Yeah. I mean, I don't hate it.
Let's talk about the news that we got a little bit before we ran on. Kent Bazemore moving to the bench with Alex Len. The Hawks are going to start Dwayne Dedmon and Kevin Huerter. You like this. Tell me why.
I mean, so the main reason why I like it, first of all, it will take everybody off of Bazemore.
Okay. I can see that, obviously.
Because he's being benched, he's going to play less. He's not going to play less. He's going to play the exact same. The only difference is he now has the entire second unit essentially to himself.
You're forgetting about a guy named Jeremy Lin.
Yeah, I know he's got Jeremy Lin there. Believe me, I know. But, I mean, 2 guys? Okay. And Alex Len? I mean, you're basically going to have him and Lin are the only, well, and you've also got Bembry, so that's also true. But he's going to be the main guy in that second unit. Whereas in the front unit, in the starting unit, it's pretty much, it's him, it's Trae Young, it's Taurean Prince.
A lot of high usage guys.
Shot. Yeah. So he's going to have a significant bump in opportunity and usage and all that stuff. So, you know, it doesn't mean, excuse me, that I love him and I'm going to play him in all my lineups. No. But now because he's dropped in minutes, or excuse me, in ownership, I'm going to take a shot.
I like it from a... let's get one thing. I like it. Everything that you just said. I think this move is temporary for Bazemore at least. I think this is trying to get his butt in gear.
Most likely.
Because he has not been, outside of a few games, he has not been good this year. He has not been consistent. He has not taken that next step from where he was last year going into this year. Now you could say a lot of it's probably a new system around new players, new head coach and stuff like that, but you don't get benched because you're getting used to a system. You get benched or moved to the second unit for, in Bazemore's case, I think for lack of consistent hustle. And this coach is trying to send a message. And how do you send a message? You tell your highest paid player to get your butt on the bench and earn your way back into the starting lineup. You have to earn the pregame, hype announcements. You don't get that handed to you. I do like it. I do like everything that you just said. My problem is that I want to know how he's going to handle it. I'll have him in a few lineups because I know the capabilities that he has, and I'm going to play the card that, hey, you know what? This will get his head out of his butt, but I wouldn't be surprised the other way either if he kind of pouts for a game or two until somebody smacks him around a little bit in the locker room.
Yeah.
That's me just playing like the human element side.
No, it makes sense. I mean, and I agree with you. I think, so for the most part, the reason why he's slacked off, excuse me, in my opinion, is primarily because he knows this team isn't going anywhere this season. He knows that. He knows that they've got some young guys that they are going to want to see develop and see what they can do and see if they are going to keep them as cornerstones or not, build around them or not. And he's like, what am I doing here playing hard for? We're not going to go anywhere. And that's kind of where he's been. And I agree, the coach needs to. Listen, for all we know, maybe he's not able to play enough minutes and he's just going to come off the bench because of his ankle or whatever the injury is. I don't know what the reasoning is. We will look into it to see what the final reasoning is, or if we can find anything on it. We just don't know.
Mm-hmm. Okay, a couple of value plays. Can you play Aaron Holiday at 22 minutes at 4,800 on FanDuel?
Oh man, he's priced up. He was a great play when he was minimum price. I mean now.
If I told you it was 3,600 on DK, would you play him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely, I would.
Yeah. I think Monty Morris, if Gary Harris is out, is another great play today.
Yes.
He's going to play a ton of minutes. He's obviously going to play close to that 28 mark. I also think that if you had to pick between Kevin Huerter and Alonzo Trier tonight, both going to play about the same. Maybe Huerter plays a little bit more.
Maybe.
We're talking about a $500 difference between the two on FanDuel.
I would pick Huerter just because I know that at least he'll play.
Okay.
Whereas with Trier, I don't know, Hardaway, freaking anyone can, Nilakita, anybody can get hot, and Trier's not going to see, 10 minutes.
Yep. I also think on a 5-game slate that Garrett Temple is in play as well.
Yes.
4,200, going to play a ton. I normally don't, like we said, we normally don't pick on Toronto backcourt, but he's going to play a ton, and he's active on all ends of the court. So,
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the small forward position here. LeBron James, obviously, going into Denver, 11-2, is the most expensive player on the board tonight. Don't let what Kevin Durant did last night force LeBron James into your lineup. I want to now, if you think LeBron James is a good play, then fine, by all means play him, but don't play FOMO. Don't play for the fear of missing out. That's not a good way to play DFS. That's not a good way to build your lineups. So outside of that part, LeBron James or Kawhi Leonard.
I mean, I'm going to go with the guy who is the entire offense is based on him. I mean, it's
I would tend to agree.
I mean, and it's points, it's assists, it's rebounds, he does everything.
Yep.
These are two very fast-paced teams yet again. Whereas, Toronto and Memphis are not. What does that mean? That means higher total, more points, more possessions, more rebounds, more shots, more everything. Now, LeBron is $1,200 more, with good reason, but versus Denver, yeah.
Yeah, Wancho ain't going to be able to hold down the king.
No, he's not.
So, now, if Gary Harris plays, does that limit your likability in LeBron?
No.
Okay. We just talked about Gary Harris defense, so that's why I was throwing it out there. Josh Richardson with the point guard situation in Miami going against Atlanta, I think is a great option tonight if you want to pair him up with LeBron, or if you're wanting to pay up at the front court with some guys that we're going to talk about, then I think they're good options as well. Justice Winslow's at 5,000. He's too cheap in my opinion. Again,
too cheap.
Going up against Atlanta.
Way too cheap.
Going to play close to 30 minutes. He's going to be a staple of a lot of my teams as well.
Yeah, and I don't even mind pairing him with Jay Rich. So here's the thing. I think Josh Richardson is a GPP winning type of play. He's got that. I mean, they've got no point guards, so he is the point guard, and Winslow will run it with the backup unit, as will Dwayne Wade. But maybe some Magruder will run it at times. But I mean, it'll be by committee. But the de facto is Jay Rich.
Yeah.
And he's got a cake matchup here. What is this spread? It look like 7.5 for Miami, but look at the totals on that game. It's the highest on the board.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you're not playing any of these, LeBron or Kawhi, I think you almost have to play some Jay Rich. There's another guy that I just can't seem to not load up on. And it's going to be TJ Warren. I don't care that he's priced at 6,800.
That's actually gone down.
It has. And let me just let everybody understand, because it was a Sunday. He got ejected last game.
Yeah.
Right? I think it was a flagrant 2, and they kicked him out, and he didn't play a full game.
Too.
I actually didn't see it. I just saw the tweets about it. But
yeah, go watch the highlight.
Yeah, it's been getting softer over the years. But he is, along with Booker, a core part of the offense there. And he's also a big part of the defense there. He's small forward on FanDuel. He's the power forward, right? It's Ayton and then him. And then Ariza at the small forward. So which we'll talk about. He's going to
be getting a lot of Blake Griffin defense tonight.
No, they're playing the Pacers, so he's going to be getting a lot of Thad Young.
Oh, sorry, Thad Young. I was thinking I was thinking about last game.
I mean, Thad Young's not bad, but I mean, you can attack him. And so, if you want to get a little bit unique, I would even pair up Jay Rich and TJ Warren versus, some of the higher price guys.
Yep, you can do that as well. Let's see here. Wancho.
I mean, he's he had his best game of the season versus the Lakers. I remember because I saw that game. He was on fire.
And that was with Gary Harris and Will Barton both playing.
It was, yeah.
Now you take one or both. Yeah, we know that Barton's not going to be playing.
Right.
Now you take Gary Harris out, and it could be a free-for-all.
Yeah, I mean, if Harris is out, Hernan Gomez is firmly in play. If he is in, I think you can still play Hernan Gomez.
Oh,
yeah. Because Harris is not going to be 100% his first game back. So,
nope.
We talked about Winslow. I do have some interest, albeit less interest, but in Taurean Prince, just because of his ability to go off, and with Bazemore not in the starting lineup, it's a little bit more for him. Opportunity, usage, shots, etc. But he's probably going to see a decent amount of Josh Richardson. Excuse me. And I don't like to target Jay Rich defensively, but at under 6K at Prince's upside, with this total, someone's got to score. So I don't hate it.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I'd much rather play. I think, go down to Bogdanovich. You can even throw in a Mikal Bridges in there too.
Sure.
So, all right, let's move on to power forward here. Blake Griffin at the top, 9,800. Obviously, I don't think we need to analyze this one too much. So
just play him and move on.
Yep. Now, here's where it starts to get a little bit interesting.
Yeah.
Jaren Jackson Jr. is at 7,100. He is I honestly can say that I don't think I've been more shocked with a front court player than I have with him. It's not a great matchup going up against the Raptors, but he does a lot more than just score. And when they go small, he's going to come in and he's basically going to play the 5 against Serge Ibaka.
Right.
So I don't mind it. I think it's tournament play only. I'm definitely not building my cash around him. So that's kind of where I'm leaning that way. I have a lot more interest in guys around the 6K range.
Yeah. It's probably going to be a fade for me all the way around with Jackson. I just don't see myself paying 7K for him. Not going up against Serge and Siakam. So I would rather go down and play John Collins. I mean, he'll be significantly chalkier, but for good reason. I mean, or like you said, you've got some of the guys in the 6K range, including Collins at the top of that 6K range. You've got Noah Vonleh. You've got Ingram and Kuzma. You've got Thad Young. I mean, there's a lot of guys here that you can get the same production for significantly cheaper.
Yep. You kind of hit on him a little bit. Noah Vonleh, now 6,700. Came back down to earth. Mm-hmm. You could say, but and maybe that'll decrease his ownership a little bit because people aren't used to paying 6,700 for him.
That's true.
I love him in tournaments.
Yeah, I do too. I by no means is he a must play.
No.
But I love him in tournaments as well. I think he's going to have a little bit more ownership than we might be giving him credit for, and I say that because the only thing that will deter somewhat is that John Collins is the same price. Going up versus Miami, but the thing with Vonleh is he's had so many of those huge games, and people are going to see that. Oh, he can do that against Blake Griffin, and they're going to want to, run to that. So,
okay. Brandon Ingram versus the Denver Nuggets, and then we'll talk about one of my sneaky guys. Actually, two of my sneaky guys tonight.
Is one a karate master?
No, he is not. But he is in the initial player pool.
Gotcha. Okay, so Brandon Ingram, I've been watching obviously the games, but I've been watching his demeanor. I've been watching his maturity. I've been watching his interviews. He's arrived, guys. He's arrived. The last game, what I saw out of him, not the last game, because we got embarrassed by the Magic. But the game prior to that, what I've seen from Ingram was kind of like a whoa, right? Like just it's about time. He's attacking the rim. Every time he gets the ball, he's going to the rim. And if he doesn't get to the rim, he back to the basket on his turnaround shot. He's lengthy, so it's very difficult to block those. At his price in this fast-paced game, at what I determine will be probably single-digit ownership, if you want to get off the chalk of the Conleys or the Conleys, Collins and Vonleh together, the Collins and the Vonleys, you can go to Ingram. I mean, and also he's listed at power forward, but he's the shooting guard.
Yeah.
So you're getting a shooting guard as a power forward.
Yep. I would agree. You said everything that I wanted you to say in order for me to be pushed kind of over the edge on Brandon Ingram. So I would kind of agree on that one. Obviously, James Johnson is in play, the Karate Master versus Atlanta. I actually have I have two plays at $3,800. Okay.
All right.
And they're only plays because of the tempo of these games. They're only plays because of the pace of these games.
All right.
Trey Lyles and Kelly Olynyk. These are two guys that can hit.
Yep.
And they can hit and get hot quick. I'm not expecting a 40 out of them. So they're under 4K for a reason. Okay. But if they get 20 minutes or so, then they could really, really, really help boost you in tournaments. They are deep field, large field tournament plays only. They are not anything else. And they're 5-game slate guys that you're going to get at single digits.
Yeah. It's James Johnson and Olynyk, you said?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think Olynyk will be even lower than Johnson.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, no. Trey Lyles and Kelly Olynyk.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, I mean, so Trey Lyles out of those two, would be my pick because of the pace, because there are going to be small ball lineups out there when Jokic sits, when McGee and Chandler sit, when LeBron plays the 5, or sometimes they have Kuzma at the 5, or whatever. They do so many different lineups. It's hard to keep up sometimes, but there's going to be smaller lineups out there. For me, it'll be Lyles. There's nobody really on the Lakers that can guard Lyles, to be very blunt. It's going to be Kuzma, who's improved, but not a very good defender. They're not going to have any of their good defensive guards on him because he's not a guard. So that's going to be that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I love it tonight. So, and this is like when we're talking like these large field tournaments where you're having to play like 25 to 35 to 70,000 people. So,
yeah.
Let's talk about centers here. There's a couple of them that we got to go over. Andre Drummond, 10-6.
I mean, look, he's expensive for a reason. It's a phenomenal matchup. I mean, he's probably going to go up against a lot of Enes Kanter. Look, man. I mean, so if I'm playing 100 lineups, I'll probably have about 15% Drummond. And it's only 15% because there's some other guys here that I just absolutely love, and I can't seem to get away from. So.
Yep, let's talk about him. Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, this guy loves playing in the Lakers.
You could say that.
So, I mean, it's just, you look at the history, you look at the matchups, I mean, you look at the fact that he's now got it pounded into his head that he needs to initiate the offense and be more aggressive on that side of the floor, and that doesn't mean just shoot more, which he does need to do, but it also means the offense runs through him. It's not Jamal Murray, it's not Gary Harris, it's not Paul Millsap. The offense runs through Nikola Jokic. Mm-hmm. He gets the ball in the post, and they run the two-man games, and they run the motion offense through him when the ball is in his hands and on the block, or even in the high post, oftentimes. So you're talking about a center who's got an insane amount of not only a usage rate but the ability to just to make all the passes. I mean, yeah. Clearly I love the play.
Yeah, I kind of do too. So, it's, oh man, it's a lot of fun. Mark Gasol, go ahead.
Yeah, man, this is my favorite center. For a few reasons. The main reason being that I think what's going to happen is a lot of people are going to see the matchup with Toronto and be like, oh yeah, I'm not playing him, right? The reality of the fact is, well, there's two realities. Reality A is the one spot that they have not defended well, in fact, kind of poorly, is the center spot. They being Toronto. The second thing is, Marc Gasol has been a monster. 4 out of the 5 games, he's been over 50 points. I'm going to look up that right now, if you give me just one moment here. Where are you, sir? Here. So, Marc Gasol, the last, handful of games. Versus New York, he put up a 63. Versus the Clippers, he put up a 55. Versus San Antonio, he put up a 41. Versus Dallas, he put up a 55. Versus Minnesota, he put up a 59. I mean, these numbers are not... I don't really have to say anything else. The numbers speak for themselves. And he's going up against a team, like I've been saying, that doesn't defend center very well. And so I also think you're getting a guy who's been on fire at single-digit ownership. Well, everybody's probably going to go over to Drummond or down to Jokic or some of the other guys that we're talking about. I think Gasol is kind of an afterthought here.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I can't find anything that I don't like. And I can't find anything I don't like. And I like you said, I think the ownership is going to be good enough. I mean, if your build leads you that way, in my opinion, he's good enough for cash. It's just there's not a lot that I could really pick out here that I don't absolutely love.
Yeah.
We love slow games with big guys, with traditional bigs. And honestly, you could probably say, spit out everything and say, okay, since Marc Gasol is the center, you're probably going to see a lot of Jonas Valanciunas tonight. And I think he's a good option as well. Okay, let's talk about the Hassan Whiteside, Bam Adebayo little mix-up.
Let's talk about the what now?
Let's talk about Bam and Hassan.
Yeah, so, I mean, I've got a few Whiteside lineups because, I mean, I know that they have Dedmon and Len over there in Atlanta, but I think he's a really risky play. Obviously, the matchup is great. Everybody sees Atlanta for sure. But the thing about it is, I think if the Hawks want a chance here, they're going to probably have to go a little bit smaller, which means Adebayo. Adebayo was just, he got a pretty decent price.
Yeah, 4,600.
Yeah, he's got a lot there. That's wow. Okay, he went up $1,000. But I don't hate it because we know with Adebayo with his 25 minutes what he can do. So I don't hate the play. But between those two, it's just considering double the price. It's probably going to be a Adebayo between those two. Okay, so two more centers I want to talk about, and we'll wrap up. Okay.
Sounds good.
Enes Kanter going up against Andre Drummond. Delightful matchup. I mean, here's the thing. The thing about Kanter is one of the things that really makes his upside fly high is his rebound ability. Gets 15, 18, 20 rebounds a game. You've got Drummond, you've got Blake Griffin, you've got Noah Vonleh in this game. I'm a little bit. I think it limits his ceiling a little bit because there's so many other big rebounders in the game. But I'm still going to play a lot of Cantor because I think he is going to do a lot of low post work. He's going to run a lot of the fast break and kind of outrun Drummond in this game. So I definitely like to play Cantor. The second guy I want to talk about, I'll explain to you why I like it, maybe in our chat after the fact. But I'm going to be playing a decent amount of Dwayne Dedmon. I think it's a matchup where. So first of all, we've already got word that he's probably going to be starting. Second of all, the totals in this game. I mean, if it's not Bazemore, somebody's got to score. And Dedmon is a guy that can take advantage of Whiteside's immobility. Let's use that term. And get all the rebounds, and he hits 3-pointers now, and so yeah, I'm pretty fond.
Yep, I would agree with you there. One guy I do like is DeAndre Ayton as well. He's in that mid-tier range, 7,300. I'm probably not going to touch Whiteside. I just probably not going to do it.
Yeah.
I would rather play Cantor for cheaper or go up to Marc Gasol or Nikola Jokic. So that's kind of be how it works for me at the center position. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it for us today. Kind of ran a little bit long, but had to talk about a couple things as we always do, and spend a lot of time breaking down the point guards. So, Bear, any final words?
No, just make sure you have at least 2 players from the last games tonight because
don't forget the hammers.
Going to be fun ones.
Yep. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us. For myself, for Bear, for the DFS Army, we gone.